Welcome to the Carbonsations podcast, where we speak to some of the leading figures in the emerging carbon industry. Today, we're joined by Jason Highberger, the CEO and co-founder of Biochar Life, which is a social enterprise that focuses on improving the lives of smallholder farmers in Southeast Asia and Africa, while also battling climate change. Jason, thank you for making the time to be on the show. I know you have a rich background in international entrepreneurship, so it would be lovely if you could share with us a little bit of what you've been up to in the years prior to co-founding Biochar Life.
Sure. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. So prior to getting started with Biochar Life, originally from the U.S., though based in Singapore the last 8 years. And early days was consulting, management consulting, a little bit of tech consulting, but quickly kind of dove into entrepreneurship. First venture started about 21 years ago and really kind of never looked back. So originally started businesses in the U.S., but now I've launched ventures in Singapore, involved with launching the ventures in Africa. It's been kind of a journey of different startups, different industries, and it's been a lot of fun along the way.
Okay, thank you. And why exactly did you choose to focus on climate action and specifically on biochar as opposed to other carbon removal pathways?
Yeah, so when I started to get involved in social impact ventures, probably about 7 years ago, it was, certainly targeted towards climate change. Initially, with the startup here in Singapore, focused on wastewater treatment, but as kind of part of that journey, I realized that, I think I was more interested in heavier emphasis on the social impact versus the environmental, though still obviously very focused on environmental. So I got hooked up with Warm Heart Worldwide, which is an NGO, has been operating in Southeast Asia and Africa for about 15 years, co-founded by husband and wife, Michael and Evelyn. And so I started to get involved with them just because of the social work that they were doing, but they're also getting involved more and more with social enterprises. So based on my entrepreneurial background, I kind of drew the short straw with helping Warm Heart launch Biochar Life. So Warm Heart was and has been training farmers for over a decade on instead of open field burning, converting that into biochar. They started with their Stop the Smoke campaign, started in northern Thailand, but has now expanded to several countries throughout the world, developing world. We're really targeted to smallholder farmers to improve their lives by certainly the prevention of open field burning, but also just the agricultural benefits that biochar fertilizer brings to the table. But as part of that, we thought that it would be advantageous to help smallholder farmers increase their livelihoods economically, financially, by helping them access the carbon removal markets, and specifically, trying to help sell their credits. Since Michael and some of the other experts that we worked with are fully aware of the carbon sequestration benefits of biochar, many years ago, it really started to become more and more popular and known by buyers of carbon offsets. But there really wasn't any standards or methodologies designed around carbon removal credits based on biochar. So we embarked on Biochar Life to help facilitate that.
Excellent. And could you also please expand a little bit more on the company's work and your business model? So exactly what your role in the whole process of, generating biochar and the credits and then selling them, what role Biochar Life plays in all of this?
Sure. So Biochar Life just continues on with the mission that Warm Heart has, with first just continuing to train and supporting the training and education of making and applying biochar with smallholder farmers. So, our business model starts with training farmers on, those practices. But we also provide a role of verifying, those activities so that, buyers of carbon removal credits have, very tangible proof of the carbon sequestration benefits that the farmers are performing by making and applying the biochar in their field. So we employ now almost 50 people. Most of them are what we call verifiers. So these are people that are trained and knowledgeable of biochar, both the preparation of the biomass, the making of biochar through Kontiki methods, as well as the application of biochar as a fertilizer. But these individuals are also trained on, key aspects of the Carbon Standard International, guidelines for artisanal biochar production and carbon sinks. So, they're out there verifying, the farmer activities, multiple site visits, to, ensure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. Then the other key piece that Biochar Life provides to smallholder farmers and to the value chain is engaging, financiers as well as buyers of carbon removal credits. So we have a team that's led by Matt Rickard, who's our COO, who's out there kind of every day, working with our channel partners like Carbon Future and others to, engage large buyers of carbon removal credits. And those buyers certainly are interested in the environmental impact that we're bringing to the table, but, certainly due to the social impact that, our group and our farmers provide, that's also a big draw to buyers as well. So those are kind of the key aspects of our business model.
Okay. And I also have more of a technical question for you as well, as far as MRV goes. It says on your website that you provide verifiers with the latest mobile technology to ensure quality, consistency, and environmental integrity. Can you dive deeper into that and maybe walk us through the process? I'm specifically very interested in this mobile technology that it says.
Sure. So we've been through multiple iterations of our MRV because we work with Hans Peter and the Ithaca Institute. They were the originators of the EBC standard for industrial biochar production. So we had started there and adapted it for artisanal. So we, had to deploy, a mobile solution, a mobile app that verifiers could use to record, pictures, data about the farmer making and applying the biochar. We're now working with Dr. David Hughes at Penn State University with the Plant Village Innovation Lab and adapting that platform, which was designed for a variety of smallholder farmer benefits with disease and crop management, but we're adapting it for biochar and carbon sinks. So we've been kind of through multiple versions and evolutions of it. But our primary process is, whenever we do a carbon sink program and we need to deliver, let's say, 1,000 tons of CO2 credits, we'll engage smallholder farmers that we've trained so that they're already familiar with making and applying biochar. And then we will schedule multiple site visits with our verifiers. So we'll schedule a site visit to make sure that the farmer has prepped and prepared their biomass, and we'll record pictures of that, make sure that the biomass moisture is quite low, below 25%. So our verifiers not only have mobile devices, but they also have measurement tools that we deploy. So we verify the biomass in a visit. We'll also make a visit for the production of the biochar. So that during the paralysis process, excuse me, our verifiers will, confirm that the farmer is making the biochar correctly using the flame curtain method. They'll also record temperature of the paralysis process to make sure that the fire is getting hot enough. And then during that visit, we'll also record the volume. So we've standardized on volume methods to quantify the amount of biochar that is produced. Then in the final visit, we will record pictures and data on the farmer charging the biochar, typically with manure or compost, and applying that biochar in the field. That's making sure that the biochar is truly going into the ground, also making sure that the farmer is following the practices of how to charge the biochar correctly so that it maximizes their crop yields. Each of those like pictures and surveys that we're recording are geotagged, time tagged, and those are submitted. And then we have an independent team led by Ohm, who's been working with biochar for many, many years, and Michael and others. And they're reviewing these surveys as they come in to ensure that, things are being done correctly. If there's any corrections or training required, that they'll work with the country managers and the coordinators in the field to address those issues. There's an extra layer of verification that's completely independent of, our on the team verifiers. Then we've also started to institute internal random audits. So we will deploy some of our top coordinators and trainers during a production run to go and visit random farmers and confirm, key pieces like, again, the biomass, paralysis process, quantities. So we felt like as we continue to scale up, the need to have additional verification was important. So all of that, and then whenever we do deliver the carbon sink data or credits to the buyer, typically that's through Carbon Future or the CSI registry directly. Carbon Future or CSI also reviews the data. So there's multiple steps of verification that I believe, provides buyers with credits, extreme level of detail and proof of what we're doing. And then we have our yearly audit that's, again, done by CSI and series as another layer of verification. So hopefully that answers your question.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for painting such a detailed picture. And that actually brings me to my next question, which is, now that we kind of see your side of the process, what is it like from a farmer's perspective who would say like to work with biochar? Is it something that anyone can just freely approach you about and ask to partner with you, or do you partner only with like organizations of farmers or farmers need to already be enrolled in some type of program? How does this work exactly?
Yeah, great question. The farmers that we engage, we willing to work with any type of smallholder farmer. We have been approached by a variety of organizations that have been working with smallholder farmers. So, we really don't discriminate on, if people are looking to help smallholder farmers, we're definitely interested. We're still a relatively small organization, so we can't support everybody, but certainly our intent is to try to support as much as we can. The farmers that we've been working with in our C-Sync program are essentially graduates, if you will, of Warm Heart's biochar training. So Warm Heart continues to this day to perform biochar training for villages all throughout the world. This is through, grants and, donations through our charity. So we always have kind of an abundant pipeline of educated and trained farmers that can, participate in the CSING program. But typically, we work with farmers that we, trained before. We try to do a little bit of first come, first serve, or people that we trained before or earlier, since they've just been supporters of us in the past. Farmers definitely appreciate the Carbonsync program. We've experienced like an acceleration, an increase in interest, an expansion of their biochar activities because of the Carbonsync benefits, or specifically the income increase that they receive by participating in the Carbonsync program. So, from a farmer's perspective, they love it. This is the compensation that they receive. In lots of cases, doubles their yearly income for their household. So very, very meaningful economic impact. This allows them to, not only, improve their lives and food security, but send kids to school and, a lot of, multiplier effects occurring within these communities just because of these Carbonsync programs. So from a farmer's perspective, they love it. And we just hope that we can touch and support as many more as possible.
Thank you. Now, I pulled some numbers that show the impact Biochar Life is already making in also the amount that farmers are generating. But something that really impressed me was also the 2.5 times year-on-year increase in terms of CO2 equivalent that was removed from the atmosphere from 2022 to 2023. Granted, that was very impressive, but you've still got this massive goal of removing 1 million tons of CO2 by 2030. So I'm really curious as to your observations of how this industry has been developing so far, and what in that gives you hope that there is indeed a chance to actually reach that type of scale in only just a few years' time.
That's a great question. Last year was, I would say kind of a challenging year, but I would say started to be a bit more of a pivotal year for, I would say, the biochar industry, and specifically, biochar-backed carbon removal. So going into this year, I would say I'm quite a bit more bullish on, achieving this type of scale. We're seeing, quite a bit more purchases from buyers, not only ourselves, but industrial production, which again, I think is kind of like rising tide lifts all ships. So even if there's perhaps more investment going into industrial right now, we believe that as long as the overall buyer community, investor community is embracing biochar, that's a good thing for all of us. So, I think that, we believe that achieving the millions, hopefully eventually, hundreds of millions of tons of CO2 removal is certainly feasible, by 2030, 2035. We definitely need, a lot more support, both from the buyers and, investment community. But, we're definitely proving every day that the supply side of this equation, both artisanal and industrial, is there and is capable of scaling. Lots of biomass, lots of farmers. So if we can get the demand side right-sized and aligned, I think that we'll be in, pretty good shape.
Yeah, that inevitably also leads me to the VCMs, if we can talk a little bit about that and their role in supporting and scaling carbon removal, which is especially relevant to this conversation because biochar is absolutely dominating the market. I believe last I checked, it was close to 90% of the total amount of retired engineered carbon removal credits, which is huge. So what's your opinion on the VCM right now, and how do you see it developing in the future, and whether you see this as a good enough tool to bring us to that gigaton scale?
Yeah, I mean, we believe VCM is, I would say, a positive mechanism to get us to scale. We're definitely going to need, more support from the government or public domain to get up to the much higher volumes. But, as you mentioned, biochar, definitely, if you're looking for durable, long-term carbon removal, biochar is it. At least in the immediate term, we definitely need a wide range of carbon removal solutions, but certainly biochar can get us a long way there. And, the VCM markets, the market participants in that space, I think are, positioned well to help us kind of grow that. Again, like our partners with Carbon Future, they're, been instrumental in helping us, do that on a day-to-day basis. But I think that, the other aspect or a personal opinion is, I think that since biochar, the science is out there that proves that this is, durable carbon removal, and there are other durable carbon removal solutions out there like direct air capture, but they're, able to, obtain much higher pricing. So I think that, I guess if I had a magic wand and I could wave it, if nothing else, trying to get, pricing for biochar back credits kind of on par with some of these other durable carbon removal solutions. I mean, it's not to be greedy, but it's more to, this is really how we're able to scale this thing significantly. And then if you're thinking about, impact and, growth from artisanal biochar, that higher price point allows us to continue to improve on verification, improvements in technology on the pyrolysis side, but also equally, it helps us employ more people. There's a lot of willing and capable farmers and individuals from these communities that we can employ. So just the amount of social impact that could have, directly as well, again, back to the multiplier effect, that this carbon financing through, VCM markets with, slightly higher prices could be huge. And then, there's certainly the political angle, if you will, on top of the social, environmental, and economic. It's, politically, I think, strong for these countries and governments to embrace the VCM markets, and specifically, durable carbon removal solutions that are, like biochar, but even developed countries that are certainly the lion's shares of where the financing is coming from. It's like, there's a lot of benefit to supporting these developing countries politically, that, I think that the VCM markets, allow that to happen. So
it's actually very interesting that you say that about the price point, because so far everyone I've spoken to says the opposite. They really want to bring the prices down, and they say that carbon removal is too expensive at this point, and that's one of the reasons why it's not scaling. So yeah, that's a very interesting, different perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my argument is, or opinion is, there's a lot of money that's like gone into direct air capture as an example, or other, call it higher tech solutions at much, much higher price points. So significant capital is out there. Significant capital is being invested. So, the price points perhaps need to be coming down from those levels. But, if we could get like 200 to 250 a ton, for biochar credits, again, over time, I think that price point should come down. But, if the marketplace is willing to invest those types of dollars in other solutions where the durability is on par with biochar, then I think that would help accelerate the overall carbon removal market. It's like, again, some of these other solutions are just going to take time because they're just highly sophisticated solutions. But biochar is here and now. So, I think that it is a little bit counter to what probably some of the marketplace is expecting or thinking to help it accelerate. But honestly, I think that that's probably the healthier way to grow this market.
On that note, what is the political landscape like in the different countries that you work in, like in Southeast Asia, for example? Is there support for these types of projects on behalf of government agencies, policy?
I mean, it varies by country. I think that they're still learning, the carbon markets. They're still understanding how best to support, projects like biochar. There's definitely activity in a lot of the Southeast Asian countries, especially around biochar. But, it's not consistent across the board. I think that there's still a gravitation towards some of the traditional carbon emission reduction type programs, CERs, just because that's been around for so long. But there is kind of a growing momentum and support of it. I think the collaboration from the private sector also helps. Here in Singapore, we've been talking to a group called CIX, large exchange with some pretty substantial financial backers in the region. And so they've been working hand in hand, like with the Singapore government, to try to facilitate programs, and they're just launching like some biochar projects in the Philippines. So I think we'll start to see more and more focus on these types of projects in developing countries. In East Africa, we've been in touch with local government officials in the countries that we've operated, and they're kind of upgrading their legislation with carbon markets, certainly due to Article 6. But VCM kind of sits in this outside area with Article 6. But they, at least what we've been told, is that they want to try to make it all work, or at least make the projects consistent. So, thus far, we're seeing, I guess, a positive response from local governments and kind of the political landscape for our types of projects. And I think a lot of that is motivation around the potential economic impact, as well as the climate change requirements that these countries have in front of them.
Excellent. I'm glad to be ending the episode on kind of a high note. But before we do, I do have one final question for you, and that is regarding Biochar Life's upcoming developments, announcements that we can look forward to. Or are there any plans for the future that you can share with us right now?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're, constantly in growth mode. We're trying to engage and support as many farmers as possible. So we're, actively fundraising with the WeFunder campaign. We did part of the fundraising through some strategic partners, but we also opened it up through crowdfunding to just try to engage a broader community of potential investors, people that may be interested in supporting these types of causes. And really that is going to help us kind of catapult into 2024, 2025 and scaling up our operations in Southeast Asia and East Africa. We're also in parallel continuing to work with Plant Village and our own R&D on improving a lot of the technology that goes into verification, as well as monitoring of emissions. So there's we still believe that that's a key piece of this for our growth. So we're very excited about that, very excited about those partnerships. So hopefully all of these progress and more to share in the future.
Excellent. We'll be on the lookout for those future announcements. Jason, thank you so much for joining us on the episode of Carbonsations. It was great to have you, and I really appreciate the wealth of knowledge you shared with us today.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Carbonsations podcast and would like to hear more conversations like this, please be sure to subscribe. We really appreciate the support.